Okay, picture this. You're sitting in an engineering lecture, staring at a whiteboard that is just completely covered in abstract math and theory, and you're thinking, all right, but how do I actually build something with this? We've all been there. It is a massive leap to go from those neat little textbook diagrams to actually holding a tangible working system in your hands. But here's the thing. It's a leap every single successful engineer has to make. So let's dive into this because today we are going to bridge that exact gap together.
Welcome to this explainer. Think of our time together today as your personal step-by-step mentorship roadmap. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through the whole process of building hardware mini projects. Whether you're looking to impress future employers, gear up for grad school, or honestly just finally make an LED blink on your own terms, this is exactly where we turn theory into reality. Here is a super quick look at the journey we're taking today. 1. The call to action. 2. Finding your domain. 3. Beginner tools. 4. Scope and budget. 5. Development workflow. And finally, 6. Avoiding pitfalls. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the call to action. Specifically, why build mini projects in the first place? Well, many projects act as the ultimate bridge. You hear all these wild terms like GPIO, interrupts, and communication protocols in class, right? But it's not until you build a project that you actually apply those concepts in real physical hardware. You're going to develop systematic debugging skills, which, let's be honest, is basically engineering thinking in its purest form. And the really big takeaway here is that completed projects give you portfolio-ready systems. They prove to future employers and grad programs that you don't just memorize test answers, you actually solve practical problems. Plus, most of these projects totally mirror real-world engineering environments because they require teamwork. Moving right along to section 2, finding your domain. This is all about choosing your path. So looking at the 5 major categories of embedded and IoT projects, it's kind of like a giant buffet. If you're super passionate about climate, there's environmental monitoring. We're using sensors to track temperature, humidity, and air quality. Or maybe you want to upgrade your own living space with home automation, tackling smart lighting, security, stuff like that. If healthcare is your jam, wearable devices like health trackers are absolutely huge right now. Then you've got industrial IoT, which gets into motor control and predictive maintenance, and of course, robotics and control, where you can build autonomous vehicles or line followers. Basically, whatever sparks your curiosity, there's a specific category waiting for your ideas. Okay, section 3, beginner tools. It's time to arm yourself. When you are just starting out, you are usually looking at 2 main contenders. First up is the legendary Arduino Uno. It is the absolute classic entry point for your basic inputs and outputs. And then we have the ESP32. Now this board is a total powerhouse because it brings Wi-Fi directly into the mix. So while the Arduino is perfect for getting that simple LED to blink, the ESP32 lets you connect your sensors straight to the cloud and display data on little screens. Let's anchor these tools to what you can actually do with them. With the Arduino Uno, you're mastering digital outputs, analog inputs, and serial monitor debugging. But grab that ESP32, and suddenly you could build a full-blown Wi-Fi weather station, pulling data from a DHD22 sensor and publishing it up to the cloud via an MQTT protocol. If you dive into the smart home domain, you'll be using these microcontrollers alongside relay modules to safely control heavy AC loads. And if robotics is more your speed, you'll be wiring up HCSRO4 ultrasonic sensors so your robot can literally dodge obstacles all on its own. Now, I know exactly what happens next. You decide on a project, you're feeling good, and then suddenly you're staring at a massive, vast array of electrical components scattered across a desk. Resistors, capacitors, tiny microcontrollers, LED components everywhere. Honestly, stepping into this world for the first time can feel completely overwhelming. So let me be your mentor for a second here. Take a breath, don't panic, start simple. Every single complex system out there is really just a combination of simple, easily understood parts stacked together. You do not need to know what every single component on that desk does right now. You just need to know what your specific project needs. Which brings us nicely to section 4, scope and budget. Let's talk about the master plan. There are 4 absolutely crucial steps to picking a good project topic. Step 1, identify a real problem. Look around your home, your campus, or your community for actual needs. Step 2, match your skill level. Start with something that's within your reach, and then you can stretch yourself later. Step 3, check component availability. Make sure the sensors you want are actually in stock locally or can be shipped in a reasonable time frame. And step 4, this is essentially the golden rule of engineering projects. Define a clear scope. Listen, if you cannot summarize your project goal in one single sentence, it is way too broad. Seriously, shrink it down.
And let's talk numbers, because budget matters, right? A typical student project is actually surprisingly affordable, usually landing somewhere between 20 and 60 US dollars. Your main brain, the microcontroller, is only going to run you about 5 to 15 bucks. Your sensors and modules will take up around 8 to $25, and your enclosure and random miscellaneous wiring will be another 5 to 10. A massive pro tip here, prioritize reusable components, so the money you spend today pays off in your next project too.
When you're actually picking out this hardware, think of it as a cascading flowchart. Everything starts with your core project requirements. From there, you branch out. You pick your microcontroller, then you select sensors that perfectly match the voltage and protocols of that specific controller. After that, you choose your actuators while keeping a really close eye on their power draw. And finally, you plan your power supply, whether you're using USB, a battery, or a wall adapter. Every single choice flows logically right from the one before it. All right, Section 5. Development workflow. This is your path to success. Listen, this is your non-negotiable 5-step sequence. Step 1 is requirements. You're defining the problem in your exact specs. Step 2 is component selection, picking the hardware and mapping out that budget. Step 3 is circuit design, drawing up your schematic and prototyping it on a breadboard. Step 4 is firmware, writing your code and testing those logic loops. And finally, Step 5 is system integration and debugging. If you strictly follow this structured workflow, you are going to drastically reduce rework because every phase gets validated before you move on. Plus, documenting these stages as you go is absolutely critical for your final project report. And finally, Section 6, avoiding pitfalls. Let's learn from some common mistakes. Look, I want to prepare you for the dragons you're inevitably going to face. Because we have all been this person. It's 2 a.m., you are stressed out, staring at a chaotic spaghetti monster of wires on a breadboard, practically pulling your hair out trying to figure out why the circuit won't work. It is a universal rite of passage, but I promise you don't have to suffer quite this much. To avoid that exact 2 a.m. meltdown, you've got to watch out for these fatal traps. First, do not skip validation steps. Validate early, validate often, document everything at every single stage so you can backtrack when things inevitably break. And this is a big one. Buy your components from reputable suppliers, folks like DigiKey, Mouser, or Adafruit. Buying those incredibly cheap counterfeit components online might save you $3 today, but I guarantee you it will cost you hours of your sanity when they start malfunctioning for absolutely no reason. I want to leave you with a piece of wisdom that basically sums up the entire thesis of this explainer. A completed, simple project beats an unfinished, complex one. Start small, validate every single step, and get the thing working. That is exactly what makes you an engineer. So there you go. You've got the roadmap, you know the tools, the workflow, the budget, the whole shebang. The only question left is this: what real-world problem are you going to solve first? Get out there, start building, and let's turn that abstract theory into something incredibly real.